Innovative open source projects made by incredibly motivated students, coaches, and organizations.
Hello Open Summer of Code and welcome to another tutorial. This one is about team retrospectives. Team retrospectives are conducted to figure out how the team is doing, to check in with the team. Another reason to do this is to unwind and to improve. For instance, after a busy week or a deployment or a hard client meeting, this can be used as an energizer or a way to unwind together with the team. In a remote setting, this is especially useful. In a live setting, it's a little bit easier to get in touch with your team members, to feel how they are feeling and to improve things along the way. However, in a remote setting, it's much harder to really pinpoint if something is going wrong. This is why we do a team retrospective. To put it in Frederik's words, a coach of a couple of years ago at Open Summer of Code, at the end of each week, we evaluate how we have collaborated. This isn't about the project, it's about the team. Use a collaborative tool you like if you're doing this in a remote setting. In a live setting, you can use a combination of paper and Post-it notes. In a remote setting, you can use things like Miro, they have great templates, Mural, or even Google presentations. Find what feels good to your team. If it's your first time, make sure you take some time. Especially with a new team, it's useful to take some time to get to know each other. When you've done this a couple of times, you'll know how much time it takes and it'll be a little bit faster. A team retrospective consists out of two parts. The first part is writing down the good, the bad, and the ugly. In the second part, you will take action as a team. So it won't just remain with talking, we will actually try to improve ourselves and work together better. Part 1, writing down the good and the bad. Everybody individually takes a Post-it note, a physical or a virtual one, and writes a couple of things down, one thought per Post-it note. Give everybody a moment to prepare this in silence. No need to talk out loud. We're creating an open and honest environment where everybody feels safe to write down what they're thinking without feeling judged. When you're doing this for the first time, it might be a little bit harder, but after a couple of team retrospectives, it'll be easier and everybody will feel much more open. In the beginning, people might not feel as comfortable to write down the Post-it notes, so encourage them a little bit by setting a minimum. If you're in a large team, you might have to set maximum as well, to make sure that you're not going to go over time. Add names to the Post-it notes or don't. I don't work with names on Post-it notes because I want people to feel safe and a little bit anonymous at first, to talk about it as a group, and then it will come out anyways. Other teams, however, when they're already up to speed and trust each other a little bit, they will write down names so that it's easier and faster. Depends on what type of team you have, if they're a little bit more introverted or not, and if you're already working together well or not. The very basic version of a retrospective is that you start with what you don't like and like. You can extend your retrospective and add columns like praise or celebrate. Depends on what mood you're in or what you're looking for within your team. But let's start with the beginning. Do not like, and the extra praise. A praise column will also make sure that people feel grateful and that other people feel appreciated. And sometimes you really need that, especially in a remote setting where it's hard to find out which value am I contributing actually. I will show you a couple of examples what people could write down. In the do not like, I wrote down the presentation didn't go well, we are working long hours, I go home way too late, I can't have dinner at a normal hour. In the like column, you could say, good questions during meetings, the meeting went well, we shipped an actual working app together, which is a wonderful thing to celebrate. In the praise column, you could, for example, say that somebody created a wonderful presentation, or somebody has great ideas, or that you like working together in the team. This creates some room to praise each other. In the second part, we start turning the talking into action. We're not just going to take these Post-it notes, discuss them, and then nothing happens. We're going to evaluate what went well and evaluate what we could do better. Discuss. Take a Post-it note. Start with the bad and end with the good. Starting with the bad, make sure that people can vent, but ending with the good, make sure that people feel good afterwards, that they don't feel drained by all the negativity, but also see that there are a lot of good parts about your team and that you have the strength to build a better team together. When you take one Post-it note, it's possible you have a ton of other Post-it notes that say the same thing, and you can group them immediately. For instance, working long hours, going home way too late, not being able to eat dinner at a decent time. These could belong together, so you can group them and discuss them at the same time. Every time you take a Post-it note, there's a possibility to put them into action. Found a solution to a problem? Got an idea? Start. Something doesn't work or a failed experiment? Stop. Successful experiment or something went well? Continue. For example, the presentation that didn't go well and somebody suggests, let's practice more. You can put that in the start column. An example for stop is the working late group. This is an actual example of a team of mine that didn't like that we were working late. It was true, and a lot of people had to travel home for a long time, so they couldn't eat in time. So we stopped planning our retros too late so people could go home in time. And in the continue column, you could add experiments that you've conducted in the past week, evaluate if you should continue or not, or something that just worked really well. Don't forget to assign one person in the end. You only want one person to be responsible. Other people can help, but one person is responsible for it being actually realized. And make sure these actions are balanced so the load doesn't just fall on one person. There are a lot of templates out there online, and if you use tools like Miro, you even have templates inside the tool that you can use. But in a real-life setting, you can also start drawing and experiment with new things. You could create setups like glad, sad, and mad, and then have a kudos section to make sure you get to praise people, or liked, learned, lagged, and longed for. But it all comes down to the same thing eventually. It's a wonderful way to end the week, and it helps us to start the next feeling energized and aware of how we collaborate. There are tons of ways to conduct a retrospective according to the needs of your team. You can look at the wiki to find it out, or ask a coach, especially Niels, to know more about this topic. And good luck!